Welcome to the Inspired Messengers Network Masterclass with Mark Porteous and my super expert guest, Dr. Kees-Jan de Ma. For anybody who's wondering how you pronounce Kees-Jan, Kees-Jan. And the title for today is The Key to Living Your Divine Purpose. Discover your innate, unchanging core values. And then during our call today, we're going to be talking about the core value index and how you can use it in your own life to make your life better, but also for working with your clients. We're going to go over the clear definitions of what the core values are and different contribution types, the core value learning style, inborn negative conflict strategy, which is a real big part of how we can use this to improve our lives, and then where you tend to be vulnerable and why. But before we get into any of the training, I really want to connect with you, Kees-Jan, as far as how we first got introduced and why we're here today. You're just about to share that, this journey that you and I have been on. I was first introduced to Lynn through one of my partners who had been using the core value index for years and thought that it would be a great fit. And when I learned about it and saw how aligned it was with my mission and the work that I was doing, I got really, really excited about it. Lynn became one of our mentors in the Inspired Messengers Network, and I became certified in this process. But like anything, when you start learning it, it's still new and fresh, and there's so much to do. You've been doing this for a long time, so it's really good to have you here. And the real impetus for Lynn introducing us was because I saw the power of this, and I wanted to make it available to everybody, even if you didn't want to get certified in it, because he offers a great certification program. But I wanted everybody to be able to use it. And so I was talking to him about creating what you've already done, with your university. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But tell me a little bit about your university and what you do.
Well, yeah, the university has a lot to do with the same, kind of a mission that you're on is to help people find and discover truly who they are, and then if we find out who we are, and we discover our talents, our giftings, in this case, our core values, innate core values, it really helps us to become the contribution that I believe we were designed to be. And so when one of the teachers in the university is Dr. Melody Hilton, started talking to us about the CVI. She had, been teaching to people in the army, politicians, everywhere, with all kinds of tools that existed back in the days. And when she ran into the CVI, the Core Values Index, designed by Lynn Taylor, she says, you really need to look into this. And she sent me the link of the test that everybody has gotten here as well. And then I took the test, and I was amazed at how in 10 minutes, this test could so accurately describe truly who I was, and the same for my wife. So I told Melody, I said, I want to know this gentleman. I said, because it looks like, this is exactly what we're trying to do as well. And she said, well, I don't know. He's a busy guy. And so she connected us with Lynn. It was back in 2016. We share both of our visions, the university and his, and it is almost like, it's very parallel. Then friendship grew out of it. I made him an offer I think he could not refuse because we did everything in Spanish, English by the time. So I offered to translate everything into Spanish, but in return, we will be able to use his material and create a first course. And that was the first one ever online for the Core Values Index because it had so much value. We actually created it with Melody Hilton. And now, several years later, my wife and I were both certified Master VARs. We have now added to the university the practitioner's certification and the VAR certification, which are two of the main programs that Taylor Protocols has. And we've done this first in Spanish, and now in the upcoming months, we're going to start this whole program in English. Lynn came to my home. He was in the same studio. We just have a wonderful friendship. He's a wonderful person, and I think the history of how we got to this is very, very interesting. And it just works. I mean, this is the one thing I like, that it works. It changes our lives. It changed my personal life. It changed my marriage life, the way I dealt with my kids, the way I deal with everything. And now, I just lately was called to a friend of mine says, I wanted you to do this and this job. I had to hire over 20 people in less than 2 weeks. And, you know, without the CVI, that would have been absolutely impossible. So.
Well, again, it really is about alignment, and seeing your alignment with Melody, and then with Lynn, and then, you know, you and I. There's just so much about that around really helping people to understand why they're here. And my stand is for all people to recognize themselves as divine beings who chose the human experience for a reason, and to live in alignment with that knowing. So this is a tool that helps people to align who they are with why they're here, and to be able to, when they find themselves out of alignment, how to move back into alignment to be very powerful.
Yeah, and I think this tool really helps that, you know, especially when they're going to see today some of the things we present. It's really is a tool to help you recognize when you go wrong, and then move back to where really should be the highest and best contribution. And so it takes time. You know, one of the things we talked about, that this is not something you just have like a weekend course, how to make sushi. This is something that you learn, and then you have to chew on it every time. And then the more you put this into practice, this is really like the coaching principle, right? You learn this, then you start to see the results, and these results become a permanent part of your life. And I've seen that my impact has grown through it. And not to forget the friendship with you. I mean, I really enjoy working with you. It's like we've known each other forever. And I enjoy doing this. So it's an honor for me to be here. Everybody who's joining, who's watching this in, you know, and later on, it's a great honor for me to be here. And we really hope that you get something out of this session for today. Absolutely.
And we will leave with an understanding, an overall understanding of how the CVI works, and your specific chart. If you're here live and you saw in the chat, I do have a link. If you haven't taken it, copy that link. Don't take it now. You know, sit in and listen. I think you'll have an understanding of who you are. But most of you, I know, have already taken it. And then if you have taken it, please type in the chat box what your two primary energies are. And then as we're going over this, we can describe it more. But and if whether you've taken it or not, just if you want to check in and just put your name and where you're calling from in the chat box, because again, this is a masterclass. We are going to get more engaged. After the presentation, we'll open up for Q&A and be able to talk specifically about your energies or conflicts or whatever else that you need. But we really want to make sure that we're engaged with you as well. So again, I look for those. I'll look in the chat box to see. Rose is a merchant innovator. We will have a lot of those, I'm guessing, on this call. I know that a lot of those in my circle for sure. And that is also, I am a merchant innovator myself. So do you want to, should we jump in? Do you want me to use my slides on this side to share screen?
Yes, I think just lead it. And then, you know, we're going to jump back and forth. And I guess if anybody has a question, you know, they can place it in the chat, I assume. And then we'll try to answer that either during the session or at the end when we've done the presentation.
Absolutely. And yes, I would encourage you, if you do have questions, please either write them down in your notebook. If you don't have the workbook, just write them down in your notebook for now, or just put them right in the chat box, and we'll be able to answer them as we come up. I'm going to go ahead and share the screen. Now, when I put it in present mode, this makes it a little bit more challenging. I see everybody here on the side. And you can see the screen?
Yes.
So again, we're talking about the core value index and how that relates to us individually to help you find our highest and best contribution. So you want to start off with our definition of the innate core values.
Yes, I'm actually watching it on my screen, Mark, because it's also on my end to consider, but let me see here, the Enneagram core value. Okay, so when we're talking about the CVI, which stands for Core Values Index, it is actually an assessment that if you've taken it, you'll see it. There's a whole bunch of questions, but the end result of that is what we call the CVI. So and it shows you what your core values index are. And now a core value, according to the definition of Lynn Taylor, and he built this upon, you know, Maslow's hierarchy, you know, and says, okay, these are unchanging. So innate means existing at time of birth, originates at conception, not through experience or adoption. Now, still, we can't prove that, but there's one thing we do know, that you're born with these. In other words, that if you take this test, and this is the beauty about this, from this test, is that you take it 10, 15 years later, you still have a 97 point or more repeat score. So this has been done now over 20 years. Lynn has been using it over 20 years, and these tests have been done independently as well. And I've done several, and it's very interesting that that actually is true. So core means the central most important part of our being. In other words, this is unchanging. This is me. When we're talking about the core values, we're not talking about, you know, I'm now acting like. No, I am love, or I am power, or I am wisdom. That's the way that we talk. It's actually a manifestation of who I truly am, and that is my innate core contribution also to this world. Now, when we say values, that's inherent, intrinsic, invisible motivators. And as you will see your CVI results, you will see that if you recognize yourself in those, you will see a few things. One is some are very obvious, and others are maybe a little bit more in the background. And this is what this whole program is about, to see and discover what are your main core values and how can you shift from one into another so that you become the contribution that you need to become. But you cannot be something else than what you truly are at this innate core value. So that's really what the CVI, or core value index, means. Let me see, Mark, here, if you do the second slide.
Yep. And again, this is really important, that it is the only human assessment that characterizes the innate, real, unchanging, we're going to keep talking about that, nature of a person.
Yeah.
And again, Lynn Taylor being the creator and the founder of Taylor Protocols. This is really important, that we actually accurately, reliably quantify or measure the various core values that are inscribed in your innate core value. And they're he's a mathematician, he's a programmer, and the algorithm that he used to create this is beyond my scope of comprehension, because of how minute and detailed he can have it. In fact, the chance of two people making the same word choices is 1 in 10 octillion. So there are no two people who have the same word choices.
Yeah, no, and they won't have the same CVI. So this also shows the uniqueness of each person. Let me just insert a little bit. Lynn started back in the 80s. Actually, he's one of the code source code writers for what we now have in our iPhone. You know, what's it called? You know, the voice recognition system. Nobody believed really in it. The guy who was on his board was the guy who actually developed the Apple computer together with Steve Jobs. So we're talking about a history that back in the days, he was working with these humongous computers, create algorithms for doctors, for open heart surgeons, and all that knowledge he actually implemented in this when he started to do turnaround management. So when he started to do turnaround management and would go into these companies, he would realize that the assessments that existed would actually deal with personality, and people change the way that they do the test, because they really will write it and answer the test the way they think the one that's hiring them wants to hear. So they can manipulate it. That's not really shows who the person is. And as he did this, he needed another tool. And it's a very interesting story. When you do the course, I recorded with Lynn this whole history. It's a very interesting story you will be able to hear. But I think it's important to understand, where does this come from? So it was born out of the need to find an assessment that would truly help, in his case, find people for the right place. You know, so the right person for the right job, according to their innate, you know, unchanging core nature. And that's why he describes it like that. It's also, and this is not an exaggeration, it's the only human assessment instrument that characterizes the innate, real, unchanging nature of a person. There's none out here. So what you're seeing today is not because we're bragging or saying just something. This, for over 20 years, has proven to be really the tool that shows that that is actually true. And of course, you know, the results are there. So. And
we're currently well over 900,000. They're expecting that within the next few months, there'll be over 1 million people have taken this assessment. And again, it's been third-party verified to be 97% consistent, which is unheard of.
Yeah.
So let's hop into the actual CVI assessment.
Okay. So if you've taken the CVI assessment, you've seen the results, you'll see these quadrants, right? I don't know where you're at, Mark. I don't know why I lost this, the
So I'm on
view here.
our personalized graph.
Okay, yeah, I see personal graph here, sorry. So a personal graph. So when you see these quadrants, and let's move down. In this case, Melody Hilton, who teaches the course that we're offering in the university, it's an 8-week course. She uses her own example in the class. And you see that there's these 4 quadrants. So it says builder, merchant, innovator, banker. But underneath, there's also four words that are the expression of these core natures. So power, love, wisdom, and knowledge. And it's important to understand that this is who you are. So if you say, which many of the coaches are mostly merchant innovators, but maybe that's not true. Many of them are merchant innovator. And you will see the numbers there next to it. If you did the free one at this moment, there is no numbers. But if you take the one that's included in the course, you see all the extra information that in this case is being shown on the chart. So that means you have 23 points. So from all the questions that you answered, it divides it into these 4 quadrants. In other words, you have like Melody Hilton. She's 23 points of a merchant, 20 innovator, 11 banker, and 18 builder. Now, each one of those are expressions of a core value. They express themselves in an energy that when you choose to operate in each one of those, and you can only operate on one of them at the same time, that is the presence that actually the people will experience. Now, if you're a strong merchant, there is a very strong expression of love, because that really is an expression of love. If you're an innovator, wisdom, and we'll go into these, no? So when you look at this here, it says, what is your primary dominant core values? Those are the 2 that have the highest points of the 4. You wanted to say something, Mark? I'm sorry.
No. I was just saying, we're going to go into them more in depth. This is just kind of a overview of it.
And then there's a whole scale system. In other words, we don't have time to touch on this today, but we call it a ladder. So in other words, how many points do you have in each of these core values that are now revealed through this test, this assessment? And that also indicates that if you are above 25, so let's say you would have 25 points in merchant or innovator, and unfortunately you can't see it in the free one, but that means, and you could see it in the size of the color. Like if your blue one is taking up much more than in this quadrant, you probably have over 25 points there, correct? Mark, you're over 25 points, isn't it?
I am. I'm profound. I'm at 31 points.
Okay, so 31 points is... Tell us a little bit about how that works for you now, since you understand this.
Yeah, now that I understand it, I was so honored to be a merchant with 31 points and saying, oh, I'm so loving. I've always known this about me. And anybody who knows me knows that that's a big part of it. I figured we were all divine love, so that wasn't that special. What I found came from it, though, was feeling that it's a huge challenge. Having so many points in that area leaves less in the other areas, like builder, of really being able to get in there and get things done, or knowledge base of enjoying collecting data is not something that I find a lot of fun. So it's harder to get into those places, and understanding more about what love means, that it's not that romantic love, it's not that that universal love, but it's really about standing in your truth and standing in other people's truth and holding that as your value. And sometimes for me, it shows up as tough love.
Yes. But the thing is, for Mark, because he has more than 25 points, he will almost always default into that energy, into that core value. And that doesn't mean that it's always necessarily needed. Plus, that if Mark has so many points in that, then you will have to find other people in your organization that would have other core values that will pick up the things that you can't, because you don't have these core values. That's another point that's very, very important. Let's go to the next slide, Mark.
And that's a really good thing to remember too, because again, so many of us are merchant innovators that we do need to surround ourselves with people to support the areas that we're not as strong in.
Yes, and we won't go into details now, but there's lots of things that Mark wish he had, and that's why he admires sometimes other people. This is a beautiful thing that when you see not just the test of yourself, but you see them of other people, this is the secret to really helping people, is recognizing their contribution, right? When you recognize someone's contribution and then connecting together. There's no competition. There's no like, okay, he's like this, so he's my competition. No, it's actually, I need that contribution in my life to really become who I need to be, or together do what we're supposed to do, right? That's just the application.
And
now, the simplistic role.
Example of that, because again, not only in my work life, but in my home life, my wife is the builder. She's the builder innovator. Well, she's an innovator builder, although they're both 20. The innovator showed a little bit more. But the builder is the one that really, I mean, you'll see how much she gets done. So it's important to have that balance.
Now, just one thing, because you see power and then you see builder, right? You see love and you see merchant, and you see wisdom, innovator, knowledge. They're equal. The thing is the same thing. The only thing what happened when Lynn developed this, he only started out with these main words, you know, like power, love, wisdom, and knowledge. And in the business world back in the 80s, that's a lot of people thought, what is this, right? And so he created a story around it, which was built a little bit on the history of discovering, you know, the new lands. And you had the merchant who was the visionary guy who says, let's build a train station here, a hotel, let's do this. And then you had the innovator who said, sure, let's do this. You know, I know how to do this. And then you had actually the builder that said, let's get, you know, working on this stuff and let's build it. And then, of course, the banker was there who told them if they couldn't do it. Right? This is more or less what the shell was that he used to actually explain these core values in another story, in another context. And so for us, Mark and I, we move back and forth. That's what we all do. We move back and forth between saying I'm a builder or I'm power. You know, so that's where this comes from. You'll see that in the course if you're interested in knowing more about it. Now the next one, simplistic roles of the 4 contributions. So power, builder, wants results, action-oriented. It's decide and do. It's very intuitive. This person doesn't need all the explanations, not from the banker. He doesn't need any of that stuff. He just feels it, senses it, and most of the time they're also right. And so takes action. These people are very obviously, you notice them. And many of us are very jealous of them because they get stuff done. And their power is a very strong expression of you know, they're present. And so when you're a merchant or innovator, sometimes they can get on your nerves because especially when you're an innovator, you need to have, it's more cognitive. You want to have more of the data together before you make a decision. And if you're a banker, even more. You just don't take a decision. It needs to fit the numbers. And so can be a lot of conflict. And this is another thing you learn, that if you understand how that person operates, then you also understand why he or she is doing this. And then you can respond in the correct way so that together you can actually make the proper decisions. For us as merchants, it's very important not to make the wrong decisions, or as a builder, not to make the wrong decisions, because we do not tap into what is the banker or the innovator. So merchant, connections, very important, relationships, casts a common vision that when he or she speaks, people say, yes, let's do this. Love is, of course, the core value of that person. Wisdom is the person that is an observer, looks at things and always tries to improve, always will try to find a better solution to do things better and quicker. That's the contribution really to the team. Yeah? Assessment, new weapons, tools, structure, new ways, strategize, solutions. And then the banker is information, conservation, recorders and preservers of society, fairness and equality, read and analyze. So this part is, and that's what we think of a banker, right? It's a numbers guy. Now, not all accountants are bankers. That's not true. So it doesn't mean that if somebody is a banker, he automatically will be ending up in some kind of those jobs. No, their contribution to the world is very important. And it's very important for the banker, for the builder, and for the merchant to listen to that information and recognize that contribution. It will help us, you know, make a bunch of mistakes. Want to go to the next one?
Yes.
Okay, so there are the 4 of them together, the 4 energies or the 4 core values: builder, merchant, innovator, banker. The core value of each one is, of course, the builder, power. Core value of merchant is love. Innovator, wisdom. Banker is knowledge. And they're catalyzed. And we want to go into a bunch of these slides now that will show the different things that you will be learning as you dive deeper into understanding who you truly are. So the next slide talks about the builder. And I don't want to present this, but Mark, you can present it, right? Let me see.
Yeah, I'm on builder.
for some reason, I can't get my screen, my screen back on here for you, because I would like to see yours here.
Where I'm at? Yeah, I'm on the
Yeah.
part of the builder where just the builder square is lit up.
Okay, look, I'm back here again. Let me see here. Yes. Okay, just start then. So the first one we're going to talk about is the builder. And this one's going to take a little bit longer than the other ones because they're all built upon the same. If you look at these words, you're going to find out what's the core value of the builder, what's it supported by, or the catalyst of that core value, the contribution to the team, the learning strategy, how does every person learn according to their contributions, and then the conflict strategy. That's where we enter into what we call the fear or negative part, when we become the opposite of what we're supposed to be. So let's start with the first core value.
And for anybody following along in their notes, this was our promise. This is what we're going to go over, is the understanding what all of this means. So if you're taking notes, these are the things that you'll want to take notes on for your primary and secondary energies.
Yeah, so let's say, you know, your primary or secondary energy or core value is builder. Your core value is power, right? As we explained before. Now it's supported by, and so Mark, just move forward, yeah. It's supported by faith. No, the personal energy, let's do the definition, so we do it right. Personal energy applied to make a positive difference. It's the getting things done person. It's the person that takes action, doesn't need anybody else, is very independent, takes action, and makes sure that stuff gets done, right? Then it's supported by faith. These people, and it's not a religious faith, it's a faith in himself, and it's a faith in that this actually can be done. And the interesting thing is, when we're talking about conflict strategy, is that when you do not recognize that contribution of the builder, you do not recognize, you do not believe in the builder can kick into this conflict strategy, right? So what is faith? Is I know what to do now, and I will know what to do next. My power is sufficient. You know, we know some very strong builders. If you study this more, you look at modern day American politics, you'll figure out what's going on. And this is why some people don't understand it, because this is probably an extreme builder, one of these persons. So contribution to the team, Mark, the next one.
Yeah.
What's the contribution to a team that a person makes? Action and results. We need them. I need to hire builders in my team, because if not, we don't get the stuff done. We're always in the clouds. We're always coming up with a new vision. As innovators, we always reinvent, and the stuff doesn't get done. So it stays with ideas, but it never really lands. Now, learning strategy is decide and do. This is how they learn. They don't go first and study. They decide and do. And as they learn, and as they do this, they run into themselves or into the problems, and they'll fix it. Now, the conflict strategy, this is the interesting part, because when you are entering into fear, or you feel that, the next slide, please, the next Mark. Yeah, so that's the contribution. But then when somebody, and it's supposed to say anxiety, when you enter into fear, because you're in a room where you really feel that the builder energy is needed. So you come up with, okay, look, I heard the vision. I see that the innovator has come up with a plan. The banker has supported our ideas. Let's do this, right? And then the rest of the team is not ready yet. And you feel that there is something against you as a person. They don't recognize your energy. You can fall into fear. When you fall into fear, you become actually the opposite of what your contribution is. And it's very interesting, because when you operate actually in your energy, in your core value, and you are the contribution you were meant to be in that moment, and you can shift. Some people can just shift from one moment to another. They become the opposite. They're like a merchant. You know, you will see that later on. Suddenly, you know, this person that's all love now just becomes the opposite. He starts to do all kinds of things that are really not him. And you feel bad about yourself, because now you know that you are not doing what you're supposed to do. So when anxiety or fear kicks in, it comes into taking and getting instead of giving, instead of contributing. And remember, babies get and they take, and we need to learn to give and to become a contribution. And they start to intimidate. Very strong. They start to intimidate. They try to be power, not the way that it was meant to be, because power is not abuse. Power is a very strong presence that is an energy that helps to get things done. And now they try to intimidate. They try to exercise their power in the wrong way, and it hurts, harms, and causes problems, and many times, of course, relationships that break because of it. Now, the next slide, we're going to the merchant, which many of you are, I understand. So the core value of the merchant is love. It's supported by,
Let's talk about
so working, I'm sorry, Mark, go ahead.
No, you were just about to do it, working toward.
Oh yeah, I know, we need to go quick through this. The second one, so you can work a little bit ahead, I don't mind. Okay. And then, so core value is love. And it's not just, I act in love, or like Mark was saying before, it's not the wishy-wishy love, like the doormat love, you know, that or you're the king of the party always making jokes. No. Love is actually the catalyst of love is truth. That's why it's important for me to work with Mark and Lynn, because Mark is a merchant, Lynn is also a strong merchant, I'm a merchant. For me, truth is very important. If I don't feel I can trust Mark, I won't work with him, period. And I think Mark has the same towards me, right, to other people. If you don't feel that sense that it needs to be based on truth, like you're truthful in how you are. It doesn't mean you need to be perfect, but at least you're truthful about the things that you experience, you do, and the way you relate to me. And I don't find out that you did things behind my back, you actually distrusted me, you did the things wrong. That's very important for a merchant. It's catalyzed, love is catalyzed by truth, right? So it's the way things are. That's the way we like to see it. Now, the contribution to the team, which one is that? That is relationships, vision, very important. That's why many times you're coaches. That's why you bring people together. You like to see people together. The learning strategy is not just do and decide like the builder, but it is talk and listen. Isn't it true? Most merchants like to talk. It's a good thing you can make a living with it, you know, but talk and listen. It is by listening also. If you become a real good listener, this is how you learn, and somehow we get this together and we know how to be that contribution to the people that we're serving. Conflict strategy. This is exactly when we turn into fear, when anxiety hits us, when we are fearful. Why? Because they don't recognize our contribution. And then we start to manipulate. We try to still be that energy when we shouldn't. We should shift out of that energy, become another energy that's needed, and then, you know, we start to manipulate. And we will feel bad about ourselves because it's the opposite of love, right? It's the opposite of what we should contribute. So it was very interesting when we first started to see that, and I recognized myself, of course, in these things. The next slide.
And it's very interesting. We're going to manipulate here for the conflict strategy versus with the builder, it was to intimidate. And I know my mom was like, I don't know that I'm a merchant because I don't feel like a lot of love. And that's what we were talking about with the conflict strategy. When you get into that, it feels like the opposite of love.
No, and there's also, you'll find this in the teachings, is that some people, because at home, and this is where things get distorted, the mom or dad, or maybe mom was a very strong builder, and certain of your energies were not recognized but suppressed. They were not honored. And so you couldn't really develop them. They're kind of like hidden. And so what you'll find through this is why there's such a beautiful restoration process. Because even though you are not operating in them, the CBI test shows who you truly are. That's the very interesting part. You would think, and this is the difference with personality tests, is when the personality test is a result of really behavior.
Right.
So if it's adaptive behavior, which is not really you, then of course the result of that test shows your adaptive behavior. And you might think that's who you are, but it's not who you are. And this is somehow the magic of this test. This assessment is that you still discover who you are. Now you might look at some of these things and say, like many people have said, no, I'm not really a merchant. You know, I don't have that energy as present as it shows. But then later they found out that through whatever thing in the past, sometimes it was suppressed, and it was not allowed to develop. And then in this process of healing, really, and of restoration, you learn again to operate in that contribution that you were really made to be. And that gives the sense of fulfillment. When we contribute and we actually truly are where we're supposed to be, that is where true fulfillment just is a part of our life, because that's the harmony that we're looking for, right? Yeah. So innovator. Now, the core value is wisdom. Seeing the way things are, but also discerning what to do about it. I'm a very strong innovator, actually, and I operate often in that energy. And You know, innovators are in the room. They're not necessarily present. They first observe, they look, and then they try to improve things. Supported by compassion. Compassion is not just, okay, they're compassionate. They are patient to teach. They're patient in the way that they want to help other people understand. They want that other people also understand, so these other people can also become what they need to become. That's a true catalyst of the innovator. Remaining empathetic, right, and curious, regardless of the behavior and emotions of others. Because it doesn't really matter what others do. You just continue, and that's powerful in an innovator. The contribution to the team is assessment and solutions. Without those, without the wisdom, without the innovators, you don't go anywhere, right? Conflicts, the learning strategy. Let's look at the learning strategy. So learning strategy is assess and solve. This is, if you are an innovator, you notice that. You'll take the things that you have, you perfect them. I have like a saying, it's like you invent it, you perfect it, you document it, duplicate it, right? So this is a constant process of what an innovator does. And if you truly find an innovator in his salsa, we say in Spanish, in his sauce, you know, like a fish in the water, you'll see that that's what he thrives by. Now, sometimes, and this is the thing, when an innovator runs into a builder, who often runs at the helm of an organization that is successful, is the builder doesn't care about all these details. It doesn't care about all your innovations. They just want to get to work. So that's sometimes frustrating, believe me. And then anxiety, when we kick into fear. What happens if people don't recognize my contribution? What happens if I feel that I'm not wisdom? And this is the key to this. When you feel you have no power as a builder, when you feel you have no love as a merchant, when you feel you have no wisdom, then fear kicks in. And then you start to interrogate. And what interrogation does is you really try to be wisdom, but you start to ask all these stupid questions. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. And your tone changes, and it becomes irritating because now instead of you contributing, you're causing this situation to turn negative and dark. And you'll learn it. And so as soon as you start recognizing it, you say, okay, wait, no, I shouldn't fall into fear. I should shift into another energy. Okay, and then the last one, wisdom. Okay, so I'm sorry, banker. So banker is knowledge, right? The core value of the banker is knowledge. It's supported, and so knowing the how and why of things. Knowing the facts through research, measurement, proof, and records. Supported by justice. Think, okay, what is this? You know, and don't think of a banker. Just don't think of the guy, you know, with a little, you know, sunshade thing on in the old movies. Don't think of that as a banker. The banker is the person that has a passion that justice is be done. That's why he does it, because he wants that justice is done to all. This law, this principle, these rules should apply to everyone. And if not, then he will reveal it. I don't know what the WikiLeaks guy did. I don't agree with what he did, but the guy is probably a strong banker because he didn't think this was right. Doesn't justify what he did, but he did it because he has that strong sense of justice. You know, ensuring the equity of access, accountability, compensation, and opportunity. Very important role. I, by nature, or by, let me say, by my values, didn't necessarily like the banker. I always felt he was interfering with the things that I had as a vision. And I tried to squeeze them kind of out of the team, but I learned now to embrace them because they save you from a lot of trouble, right? Yes. Now, contribution to the team, conservation information, learning strategies, read and analyze. They don't get tired of finding facts and data. You just have to be very careful with them. You have to give them only so much time in your meeting. If not, they'll take 2 hours and they will run you over with facts and data. The conflict strategy. What happens when a banker enters into fear and becomes anxious? When he doesn't feel that he is knowledge, and he doesn't feel that his knowledge is recognized in a meeting, he can start to boycott everything. He just starts to have a loose judgment. He just acts like, okay, you're not worthy of my knowledge. You are not worthy of the things that I bring us. So I'm not going to give it to you. And you know what? It's your problem. You know, they become the opposite of what their contribution is. We all do when we fall into fear. Anyway, that's just in brief here, the explanation of what each energy should be, can be to the team. And this is just only part of what the test reveals. Right now, this is mine. This is my first CVI, the CVI that I took in 2016. And you'll see that within the quadrants, as you also have in your report, you'll see, Bill, you don't see the numbers, but you'll see the colors and then the size of the quadrant that expresses really how much, you know, of that energy you are. Now remember, we're not talking about who I am. If you can go back, Mark, for a second, because I want to show that when you do the other assessment, so you upgrade, you'll see that around that quadrant, you see at the top it says intuitive. Now, that means that you are, so I'm a person that is a little bit more intuitive than cognitive. And it's the sum of the builder and the merchant. You see 14 and 23 is 37. Then when you look at the bottom, it says cognitive. Now, if you are a very strong banker, innovator, you're very cognitive. You're not really touched by anything that is just, you know, a cool vision. I've run into that a lot. I didn't understand why some people wouldn't catch the vision, because it's so obvious, you know, this is what we're supposed to do. And then, you know, I run into a banker, or when you try to sell something, you know, an MLM, or you have some awesome product, the bankers don't really start to kick in until you start talking about numbers. You start talking about some other things. You know, that becomes interesting for them. And I think it's important when we deal with people, especially in coaching, when we're dealing with people and we understand who they are, it's a very different approach that we have with each one of them, because it's our task to really serve them and become what they really should become, right? So then you have intuitive, cognitive on the right side, creative. Are you more creative? Obviously, I'm more creative, because it's merchant, innovator together. And then the practical, which is, you know, really, let's get things done. Let's go to work. Let's do this. And of course, and then there's the other one, which is community and independent. Now, let's look at each of these, because those are other contributions that the test shows that you are supposed to be, right? That we are supposed to be. So there's another 6 types of core values. So if you have power, right? Love, wisdom, knowledge, you recognize them. Well, power and knowledge is very practical. Love and wisdom is more creative. I was talking to an old friend of mine. Well, actually, she was my assistant. She now runs 27 people in a creative company. And we were talking about this because back in the days, we did all kinds of tests. It was a really cool time. We had a wonderful team. And somehow, you know, reverse engineering the CVI, in that team, we find out that we actually had the people in the right place without having the CVI. So that was really nice. But she had people come in that had gone to school, thought that they were going to be good designers. So they did all kinds of Adobe, whatever, creative stuff. And then they came into the company. She puts them behind a computer or in front of a computer. It starts to work, and it doesn't work. And that person now ends up into the place of programming, which is really what his core values were showing, that he was not at the creative side. He was way more at the cognitive and practical side, right? So the next slide. Power and love is above the line, and it's, I think you skipped it one. Yeah. So it's very intuitive, especially power. You know, the person who's power, who's a builder, doesn't need the details, as I said before. He gets bored with them. Let's do this. Let's go now. Now, the merchant is also very intuitive, feels things, senses things. You can't explain necessarily why, but you just feel it. It's like intuition. It's maybe discernment. It's however you want to call this, but it's a dimension that you can't explain except you know it exists, and that many times you're right. Most of the time you're right. Then when you go to knowledge, if you're a banker or if you're an innovator, then that's more cognitive. You have to understand that if it doesn't pass through the filters of your brain, then you won't make decisions, you won't act, you won't do what you think you should be doing, unless your brain also confirms it. Okay, the next one. It's very interesting because in this next one, so we're talking about builder, merchant, right, innovator, and banker. That the interesting part is that both the banker, the green one, knowledge, and the merchant, they're more community driven. You think, well, a banker for what? What? No, the merchant's obvious, right? It's community. You need to be surrounded by people. You don't like to work alone the whole day. You need to have people around. You need to touch them. You need to feel them. You need to hug them. You need to have conversation. It's very important. And then, well, for a banker, I was wondering always, well, why is that community? Because the banker's motive to gather the data, to do all this, to do all the research, to come up with the report that you need, is because he wants it to do it for the community. It's for the greater good, not just for himself. It's for the greater good, right? And they are not as independent as is the builder or is the innovator. Innovator can be very independent, doesn't need anybody to tell them what to do. The builder less. So this is another one of the contribution types that you'll see about yourself, and then see, okay, that's why I do what I do, and that's why my husband does what he does. That's why my daughter is like this, my son, my nephew, whoever, at work. Now I start to understand these people. You start to read people because of the way that you see that they are, right? Now the next one.
That's what we're talking
As I
about.
said before.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mark.
No. I was making sure I was on the right slide.
Yeah. This just repeats a little bit of what I said before. Just do the next one. So so we're created to be a contribution. That contribution is what you start to see inside your quadrant. And there's many more things. I mean, we're talking about a whole lot of other, if we talk about temperaments, if we talk about gifts or talents, there's a whole lot of other things. This is a very specific understanding of what your contributions are to be in this world. And so when you're operating in them, and this is what you will learn, you feel satisfied, because this is how we sleep well at night. You say, that was an awesome contribution. You live to contribute, not to get and take. That's baby behavior. This is what we learned as a child. I asked a cookie from mom, and mom didn't give it to me. Well, I knew that my dad was different, so now I started to ask my dad different to obtain that same cookie. That's all about getting and taking. That's a selfish, egoistical way of looking at life. That leads you nowhere. And you use your gifts, or you use your core values to manipulate and get, instead of that you use your core values in order to contribute. So the problem is that if we don't understand this, we don't know, we can't really control it. So what happens when we fall into fear, we become the opposite, then we feel like we're not good enough. That's the deepest fear. I'm not love. I'm not wisdom. I'm not power. I have no power in me. You see, the builder says, power, I'm powerless. That's the biggest fear of a builder. A merchant says, there's no love in me. In psychology, I think it's the left side of the brain, right? So it's like we have this idea that we think people think about us, which is necessarily true. So we have to learn to discern this and also see, where does this come from? So as a merchant, you could fall often into this, and I know this out of my own experience. Wisdom, innovator, I am foolish. This is especially when you come up with an idea into the room or into the conversation with your husband or your wife, and that person says, and he does, like, this is just a stupid thing. And he makes you feel stupid, because that's how you feel. Maybe it wasn't the intention, but you feel like that. When you accept that fear about yourself, you can just kick in, and from one moment to another, you become the opposite of your contribution, right? And the same as a banker. Knowledge, I'm not smart enough. I'm not smart enough. We recognize all these things. These are the deepest fears. And a lot of these fears, they come forth out of our childhood. They come forth of how people dealt with us, teachers dealing with us, coaches, team coaches, all these kind of things, these kind of warp our lives into something that we should not be. And this is why the CVI is so powerful, because it helps us to understand it doesn't matter what kind of behavior I've adapted. This is why the behavior tests do not work as good as this works. Now I know who I really am, and I need to let that come out. And there's a lot of tools to let that come out and then walk into that contribution. Okay. Now, just so you know, the free one that you just took, it's called the free CVI, a limited report, gives you what you see here. Actually, the numbers are here, but that was changed because people abuse this a lot. So there's no numbers, but you see what you see in your report. You also don't see the other report, which goes deeper into, okay, look, this is what your potential energy is. And this is really how much you're using of that energy per day. And we go over all that. So you can now adjust, you can work on this and really become who you should be. But if you take the full CVI report, which is only $50, you get the report that is, I don't know how many pages much longer, you get the free book. And actually what Mark is offering here, this is why we work together, because he said to me, look, Jason, I think there's so many people that could benefit from this. And this is why we do this, right? Because why we really do this, why we made such an effort to create this in English and Spanish. And this is why I told Lynn, is it because I really believe that as much as it changed me, I think it should change every person. There should not be a teacher in the world that doesn't understand the CVI of a child. You can take it when you're 12 years old. because that child goes into a system that is only a one-way cookie cutter system. And that's why children fail. We have done tests now, and more and more of these things we're going to do. Lynn has done it in tests at schools where really people are now, teachers are now learning that, okay, this child is different from this child. And they're doing the adaptive learning strategies that they have. And children start to flourish again. Can you imagine as a parent? Can you imagine as a teacher? This is what we're seeing. But the only way to do that is to really understand it. In coaching, it's an awesome tool. You will never do these things the same way. So inside the course, that this is really what we started with at the beginning in 2016. There was a free CVI that Lynn sent us, or actually Melody Hilton sent me. I did that. Then I upgraded it for $50. I could get this big report, so then Melody explained this to us, what Kenny and I were and what the conflict strategies were, all these things. And then we talked to Lynn Taylor, and we created what is called the University course. It's an 8 weeks Discover Your Innate Core Value course. Now, Mark, you took it. Tell us a little bit about that course.
Absolutely, and I'd love to actually be able to share more about it. So, I'll actually, after we do some Q&A and answer some of the questions, take people on a backstage tour of it so you can actually see the course. And this, again, is why we're here today, is because I was telling Lynn, I wanted to be able to give this to everybody. And not everybody's going to invest in becoming certified, but everybody should know how it applies to their life. So it was a $300 course. You get 8 weeks to take it. We go through it as a group so that we can answer each piece along the way. In fact, we can kind of switch one of I was going to talk about some of the teachers. Lynn is in there doing a lot of the teaching with Dan Cox. But it was the original training with Melody Hilton. When I first took the course, where her background in psychology and everything else, and what she does with business, it really crystallized for me how to use it in my own life, and which is the crux of it, is about being able to recognize when you're in the wrong energy and the process of being able to shift into the correct energy for any situation. And then, of course, you and Candy have been teaching thousands and thousands of people through the University of Societal Architecture, and that whole concept of societal architecture was very exciting for me. And your application of the CVI with doing this, with being able to design a society that works together for the good of the whole. This program it's more comprehensive than anything I've ever seen. You've got all kinds of resources, all of the charts, the slides. It's just, I've never seen anything that had so much for so little, for $300. It was just fantastic.
If you go back to the other slide, I'd like to show you what our strategy was. And I talked to Lynn about this, because all of us, we've had people tell us that about things that are very important. And when we took actually the ride that they told us we should take, we actually found out it was true or wasn't true. But the sad story is that there was a big price tag attached to that trying, and it is not what you expected. You have two things. You're very unhappy that you spent the money, and number two, you're not happy with your friend because that's just how life is, right? And I don't like that stuff, and that's why we designed it this way. We designed it this way. Take your free CVI. You have your first impression of who you are. You upgrade for $50, but don't upgrade if you want to do the course. So what we designed with Mark, actually we designed this in the universe, but what we want to do with Mark is, because he has his own constituents, he has his own group, he is a certified practitioner, also with Lynn Taylor. So we talked to Lynn about it, and he can actually moderate, lead you in this course. So we've created in our university a private classroom for Mark where you can actually take that 8-week course. And it's for $300, $299, I think, or something, that we've put the price. So it's a really low entry price. And when you look at the content, you'll see that this is way more than you, I think. And this is what we want. And then also the next thing is this, because I want to know before I certify myself, like as a practitioner or a VAR. This is the two different programs. You see here, it's an 8-week program that is as a practitioner. Mark has done that. He has gone to Seattle, not online, in our course. And then we have the VAR certification, which is even a higher level of certification. And that's a 12-week course that we now have in the university. The teachers are the same as you saw on the other slide. But the whole idea is that when you start thinking about paying $2,000 or $4,000, then you want to know what you get into. I mean, I want to know. So if in that course, that is the university course, Discover Your innate core values, you'll know if this is something that you could use for yourself, in your business, wherever you are serving, but you're contributing. And then you make an intelligent, wise choice. I guess that's more the banker, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, I need to know that I'm doing the right thing also. So you're not just wasting your money, but this becomes an investment that will give you a return on investment. That's why we designed it the way that we did it.
Beautiful. And I think, okay, so this is the last slide.
Yes.
What I'll do is actually end the screen share, move you around here, and then look at some of the questions. And then again, if I could actually go into the back end, but I haven't been able to look at the chat here. Stop share. You can see us again.
Yeah, let's look at some of the questions, or if there's any questions.
The one question that I was recognizing and I was feeling right away that I had the same thing. So can you give examples how you applied knowledge gained from this course in your personal life?
And that's a personal question to me, right?
Yeah, it's Marie asking both of us. So I'll let you go first and then I'll share.
Okay, so first of all, I started to recognize when I would kick into fear and become the opposite of my contribution. Of course, it would make me feel bad. But that was one of the first things that I started to apply to my own life. I remember when you go back, this is some of the themes, I don't know if you know Simon Sinek with why, discover your why, all these things that are so important to see, okay, what are really the drivers in my life? And one of the tools he uses is you go back into time where you felt like you were in the zone, like you were really, that you felt optimal within the context or a team. And I remember those times. Why was it? Because I could really be the contribution that was needed inside that team. And it gave me an extreme sense of fulfillment. But I also knew that in that team, if sometimes I wasn't recognized, my contributions were recognized, I could just flip into the other side. And that was very embarrassing for me. And later on, you have to ask forgiveness. You have to say, I'm so sorry, this and that. And of course, people love you because they know that this is not really you, but still my behavior wasn't consistent. So that's one of the things that I've been working on a lot. And I now realize, okay, even though I think my wife says something that was not nice because she didn't recognize my wisdom at that moment, or she didn't see that this awesome merchant vision is something that we should do tomorrow, right? Then I don't feel offended. I now know that that's not the problem, right? So this is very important. That was very important for me to understand. My two children, we have two children. A daughter, she looks very much like my wife and I. And then my son is different. He's much more a banker. And I didn't understand that. So I started to honor his, because we sometimes impose on others what we are, because we think if it works for us, then others also should do and try that, instead of recognizing really who they are. So when Jonathan took the CVI, my son, it really helped me. And now he actually has taken the place that both my daughter and my son also work with us. We have about, I think, in total 50 people that I work with. And it's all online. We're all in different countries through online systems. And I started to reallocate people in the organization according to the CVI, because I tried to push them in the way that I thought that they could. If I could do it, they could do it. And they were just out of the right place. And so I adjusted the functions inside the companies according to their core values index. And it is just amazing what the results are. So I started at the personal level, then with my wife, our relationship increased. We always had a fun, we're 34 years married, and we love each other. That was never the problem. It was just that some of these things would cause these negative, dark moments. And I have seen now over the last 2 years, really implementing this, those moments are gone. And even with my kids or with other people, that's my practical. And it's just the beginning. I'm now starting to use it more in corporate level, like in the organizational structures, who's supposed to be in the right place, and everything where I'm asked to help. And it's very, very, very powerful.
And you said something that was really important, excuse me, for me, which is about that it started off with you using it personally. And for me, it was kind of the opposite. I was looking at it as this is a great tool as a coach to be able to work with my clients, and realized very quickly that like anything else, it has to be applied first. I have to be able to do it for myself. And so while I can give examples of how I use it to help with my clients, it's really most powerful in how I use it for myself. One, in understanding when I am, like you said, in the converted energy, when I'm feeling a total lack of being loved, and that pain that is in, and how to recognize that strategy and move into the right energy. And also in two things, in understanding where I'm not. And so knowing around the builder and the knowledge that, as you said earlier, I'm much more concerned about who somebody is, yes, the truth, than what they know. And at the same time, there's a time for knowledge. And we were talking about the ladder before. The further it is from one number to the next number, the harder it is to convert into that energy. So it takes a lot of conscious thought to move into the builder energy, and it has to be done. There's a certain number where a certain percentage of my time needs to be spent into that, and it might only be 10% instead of 25%. But when it's called for, I need to know how to shift into that. So for me, that's been a big part of it, or even the knowledge part of being able to go through this program and take in all of the different aspects of how to apply it. It takes a lot of effort for me as a merchant innovator, and that's why it's really fun to do this as a group, because again, there's a lot. I was looking through the numbers here. There's 5 different merchant innovators, and a lot in our organization are either merchant innovators or innovator merchant. So all of us need that kind of the group support, and again, being able to identify where I'm lacking even within my business and I've known this my life. My wife has been running the back end of the business, and she is that builder knowledge. So understanding where I'm not able to and how to compensate for that.
That's very interesting. And I would suggest anybody who wants to get married, you first need to have them take the CVI. You need to understand this. This really will help you. I mean, I think, you can make most marriages work, but this really helps. This really makes a big difference. Now, what it does is also, once you realize, that this exists and your husband takes it and you both become conscious, it really helps improve the relationship. Yeah, and I'm convinced that, we always share and we have power to impact and help others. This is who we are. It's not what we say that we are. It's who you are. It's the essence of who you are. And then that's why you need to apply it in your own life. That's where you carry an authority that's not because it's just knowledge. This goes beyond that. And I think then the application also. So there's no other way than doing it first, And besides, if it doesn't work in your own life, you probably shouldn't share this with other people either.
Well, and I was, again, using it mostly because a lot of my work was around creating strategic partnerships. And so I wanted to make sure that if I'm connecting two people, how they're going to be relating to each other. And so that's a really great way. You talked about anybody who's getting married should use this. And anytime you're going into any kind of a partnership, to be able to understand that. And that was one of the reasons why I was so excited about this program that you put together, because even if you're not going to be getting certified or whatever else, just to be able to understand how you can use it in your relationships. I was thinking about certification because of coaches. Any kind of coach that does relationship coaching, every coach works with people. So if you're a coach, you're in the people business, this is a great tool to understand how to work with your clients one-on-one, much less if you're actually coaching them in relationships and how to build, whether it's professional relationships or one-on-one intimate relationships.
Yeah. Very true. I don't know if there's any other questions, Mark. I see there's a lot of merchants here, merchant innovators, builder merchant.
I'm curious to find out from others if you do have questions about your own chart or how that relates to you. And I'd also like to find out, to get it straight, is it okay if we go through and do a tour of the course? Who would like to see the back end?
Yeah.
From the program.
Just real quick, so you understand, because we
ask or two.
Okay.
I'll unmute you. You're unmuted. Michelle, were you just saying, yeah, you'd like to look at the back end?
Yeah, I would. And I just had another question, because you were talking about building collaborations. Yeah. And I wondered if when you're putting that together, given we know the diversity is great, you were all talking about the complementary nature and then the stronger group as a result of the diversity. And then you were also talking about the differences creating tension with each other. So I can ask the two of you, as you're looking at the more of a group, and you were talking even personally, what balance do you often look for?
Well,
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so one of the challenges within my advisor, within the Inspired Messengers Network, our advisors, there's 6 of us, and 5 of us are merchant innovators. 1 of us is an innovator merchant. So I was looking, you know, how do I bring in more contrast of the building side, and realize that, well, this is our advisory board, so it's not a getting it done piece. It's up to me to get it done. So I find that outside, but within the group, it doesn't, there is not that diversity that would help if there was more of the knowledge base of making sure, are we collecting the right data from everything that we're saying? I think that bringing in somebody that was more around the banker side of it, which again is something where I'm like, I don't want to be bogged down with that, could add value to our group. That's just an example for me.
So I'm hearing you're focusing more on the innovator merchant to have the core thrust of that group, but spicing the group with a complementary strength, but having your preference clearly where you need it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, the thing is, when you put a whole bunch of merchants together, you know, they will reinvent the world for you. You know that, together with innovators, they will just come up with the most beautiful solutions. The problem is I think the problem is, this is what I'm seeing. So you were asking, how does that work, like in the team dynamic? So there's a reason I think each one has their contributions, because we need each other's contribution. And where we lack the numbers and where we lack the energy, we will not be as efficient as a team or as a company or anything that we try to accomplish in this world without having the right energy and people inside our team. So it's very important that we look for those. And then, of course, that will bring conflict. It's much easier to be together as a bunch of merchants talking about the great vision of your company. Nobody bothers you. Nobody's going to tell you, well, like, wait a minute, Mark, that's really not going to work because the numbers don't add up. But you shut up. You don't say that, but you really don't want to listen to the person that's going to tell you that, because you're just all hyped up, right? You're all, if you're extreme merchant like you are, you guys will take off in that airplane, and then, you know, you think it's just going to happen, but it's not going to happen. Or maybe you make the wrong decisions because you didn't bring in the other energies that were needed, the other contributions that were needed. So what I'm looking at is, okay, I have so many points, so I can learn to shift in some of these energies, but some is really cost me a lot of energy to get into that. I need that. For example, the builder part, you know, I can do it. It's a very strong effort on my part, but I need builders in my team. So what do I look when I hire people? I look for the specific positions that where I need builders, and so this is what I look for. So they take the CVI, as cute or as handsome as you are, you know, this is not going to work because you're going to take over this department, and you know what you're going to do as an innovator? You're going to tell me how this should be done better all the time, and I don't need now how it needs to be done better. I need you to actually get stuff done. Right? I need somebody who takes this place and just gets working away. I need 100 PDFs created from all this in 6 languages, right? So no, I don't need that right now. I need you to do this. There's a system, let's do it. No, and then, so that is really important. Now the other the other thing positive, but it happens, is that there's also often very strong conflict. So the conflict resolutions are much easier when you understand how to deal with them. How does a merchant, you know, get in conflict with the builder? What's going on? How does a merchant get in conflict with the banker? How does all these things? I mean, Lynn Taylor did the other day a seminar on this, a webinar on this. I mean, we were blown away. He has whole charts on this. It was just like, I could see this. This is what happened there. This is what happened there. And it helps you prevent a lot of pain and stress by teaching the team how to apply these principles.
And one more example too is like my wife being the banker. I used to look at it as being very negative because she was pointing out all the things that could go wrong. And like they were saying, oh, I don't want to hear that. But it saves a lot of pain when you can be aware of what some of those potential hazards are, instead of trying to pretend they don't exist because you're so pumped up.
Yeah, the thing is, she wouldn't easily make a decision. Like Mark wouldn't easily make a decision. Although he's a strong merchant, so he's very intuitive too. So once he sees it, feels it, he will take a decision. But your wife, if she's a strong builder, I mean, she's what, first builder, then banker?
Innovator and bank builder are the same. They're both 20, but the other one's 18, so it's very strong right behind it.
Okay, well, you see, like she has energies that are not, so she can actually go from one energy to another when she learns to recognize them and then shift into them. So she can be banker when it's needed. She can be a builder when it's needed. She can be wisdom when it's needed. And that's maybe why she felt so attracted to you, because her fourth core value is merchant, correct?
Right.
Yeah. So that's why we often feel like we're attracted to opposite. So that's what she wants. She recognizing you, that's what she wanted. Now, this all works great until you get married, right? And then, why is your house not clean, bro? I mean, like, why did you not organize this? Well, I actually married you because I like that you're so neat, but now you're showing my weakness, right? So this is all these dynamics that show and come up. It's fun. I kind of enjoy it. I do.
Thank you. That was great. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So yeah, again, I just want to show some more of the value, the reason that I love this so much. So I'm going to just give you a real quick look. Share screen. This is the inside of the course, the program. And you'll see over here on the left side, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. We've got news, resources. I didn't realize how many resources were in there. I went in and looked later because I already had some of it, but the lessons are outlined here. So I just wanted to kind of go into the lessons to show you. This is just
Mark, do you mind if I share it? And then I'll go through a little bit here.
Your program, you created it. So tell me where to be.
Yeah, let me see if I can share mine, okay?
Okay. And while you're pulling that up, maybe I need to stop sharing so that you can share. Oh no, you did it. Good.
Yeah, I took over. You guys see this screen, right?
Yep.
All right. So yeah, first of all, the program that we use is very intuitive. So it's a very professional program. It's called Matrix. Millions of people use it. It's very important. We went through a lot of stuff, and it's somehow just not friendly. So you have an iPhone app, you have an Android app. We created it in such a way that you can watch all the videos online, and if you're in the car, you can just click on the button underneath it. You can listen to it in audio. What Mark was talking about here is, for example, all the resources, so that you just understand what it is. Besides the syllabus, of course, you get the handbook from Lynn as well. You get, what's included is also the extended CVI, which is $50. That already, the book and the extended CVI is now actually together as a package. That's $50 already in value, correct? Now, you see every week we have written a manual that goes exactly with the course. So you're not going from the left to the right. This manual, you can download it. All these things we make available. Yeah, they're copyrighted. So the idea, but this is for you. Look, and it's really helpful. So it runs exactly with every class that you're taking, every week that you're taking. You find that here in the modules. You see, okay, all these videos, they run, if you read the manual with the manuals. It's very, I mean, people love it. Okay, if I did a keynote, and we also put the keynotes in there, so you'll see inside here that if the keynotes, the slides that I just showed you, right? So you can download the keynotes as well. All this stuff is available for you as well. You see here, all these slides that we were showing, you have them there, and you can use them also as you you do the class. We have hundreds of students that print these out, put them in nice folders, and this is how they study. And of course, then we have the videos. Let me see here. I took one already just to show you. Let me get myself out of the way here. So in the videos, you can watch anywhere as well, right? So videos play anywhere. You see here, so that's Melody Hilton teaching. And then here underneath it, you can choose also to play audio, right? So I hope in the next 6 months, we'll be able to do as Netflix. So you'll be able to download and put them on your iPad or your iPhone, go into the plane. You don't need any connection, and you can actually listen to that as well. Then another thing we offer is a newsroom here. So here you can connect with the people in the class. Mark will be moderating, and then we have my daughter-in-law, Mitzi. She's an amazing person. She'll be taking care of you for all the technical questions, whatever you have. So you're not just left alone in a huge library. You're actually taken care of. And then the assessments. Of course, you have homework. You'll see who else is in the class, who are the instructors, calendars. Also, if you're the best of the class, you'll see it. Yeah, Mark, I think was at 39%. I'm at 1% here, but you also get, what's it called? They're called little gamuts or something. I don't know what it's, but rewards. So you can become the best of the class by the way that you, that you follow the course. So you see here, every class has an enormous amount of material. Each video clip, we try to not make it longer than 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. So if you have a little break or whatever, you can just watch it. And the nice thing is you have access to always one of the people that can help you. What Mark and I decided to do is also, okay, we'll do a live session as well, like a webinar session if you take the course, and you can bring in your questions. Normally we have here, like under the resources, write your live questions here. You put your name and the question, and then we'll try to answer them as best as possible. But then during the class, you can have that interaction too with your team members as well. And the idea is that we're very open, vulnerable, and this is the way that we're seeing that most people learn the most. Mark, back to you.
Awesome. I'm realizing that one of the things that I want to do, we had mentioned earlier that the course is $300. It's amazing all that you're getting in this. When I was looking through, when you were sharing that, I was realizing that most of us are coaches and instructors as well and have some type of learning platform. This is a great way to see what you do well, and how to. One of the simple things that made me think of that was that you can watch it in video or listen to it in audio. And being able to provide audio, my wife does not like to watch videos. In fact, she doesn't like to listen to the audio either. She much prefer that printed because she can read it real fast, get through it, get done, and get to the next thing. And for me, I love the videos, but a lot of people are listening in their car and everything else. So the way that you've structured it and provided all those resources is helpful for everybody just to learn a learning style. What I'm looking for, as we're talking about, is the link so that we can to go to.
Yeah, so maybe that's good to explain. So what I did with Mark is, so we have our university program. There's people from all over the different countries that we decided to create a separate course for you guys. So it's like a private room for anybody who comes in through Mark. And then also I asked Mark to moderate it, because that's nice. So let's say you do this. Look, all of us, we want that people actually help us understand things. Where there's trust, where there's a way that we can communicate and we can ask questions, and nobody, especially for innovators, nobody thinks we're stupid, right? And so all these kind of things are important. So it's a safe environment we try to create, and now the technology permits us to do that. And so you get into that, and then the homework. If you do this, we've seen people actually we had the first group was, I think, 18 people that went into the Spanish course. 14 of them already have been certified as VARs now. And they're taking it into schools. They're taking this into businesses. They're taking this into, they're in high demand. They're actually literally the first people in the Hispanic world that do this. So it's spreading. And they've brought in, I don't know how many people that have taken the CVI. So that's why the number will pass the 1 million very, very quick in people that have taken the assessment.
Yeah, and I see so many different applications for it, and that was one of the reasons I got really, really excited about it. Again, as a merchant and as a visionary, I see the application for my mission of raising the vibration of the planet. That as more and more people become the adults version of who they are and are living in their core energies, that's what's going to make this possible. And I know that Lynn has this huge vision himself that he's working on to really expand this in so many different ways. But this is a great starting point because you get a full foundation of how to use it. Some of those questions about how to apply it come up within the course. And so I'm thrilled that you've put this together and to be able to partner with you. I put the link up there. We shortened it to a bit.ly link. It's bit.ly/CVI training. So you can click right on that. And in fact, I'll go to the two. And just to show you the page, but this is the last thing we'll share. Just again, you can click on that link to find it. Is there anything else? Well, first of all, are there any other questions from you about how to use this in your life, or anything else that may be a helping decision in taking the next step and joining the personal development program, the group program that we're starting next week? If you do have any questions, you can just unmute yourself. I'm trying to pull up the link at the same time that I'm.
Somebody pasted. I think Michelle already pasted it inside the chat.
Oh, I pasted.
Good job.
Okay.
Mark, you had sent it to me privately, and so I just sent it to everybody.
That's wonderful.
Thank you. That's what I was like. No, I thought I had posted it out there. Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate that. So, yeah, if you go to the page, it will look like this. This is the program to enroll. You'll see my own testimonial down here at the bottom, but everything you need to know should be right here. Thank you so much, Michelle. I see you saying goodbye.
Goodbye.
But yeah,
yes.
So the link is there. They can sign up and check that out. I just wanted to show the homepage so they were familiar with it when they get there. But that's really, I appreciate how much information it is. You and I were talking about this, Kejan, that we didn't want to fire hose because there is so much, and that you said before, it's not like learning to make sushi. This is a process of being able to make this a part of your life's style, of your life work, and it just becomes a part of you. So I'm trying to.
Yes. No, I'm very excited about this. I think, our whole heart and our purpose, and this is why we align even with Lynn. Like, you will get to know Lynn more and more as you start listening to him and what he's doing, what he's done, and what he's doing. He's totally dedicated to trying to get everybody take the CVI in the world in education, because it literally changes people's lives around. We have one person who graduated now as a certified. She's the director of a private school here for children. And she says, it is totally different. It's totally different. We can now serve our children so much better. And I think that really is why we do this. We do this because we have an obligation, I feel, to help other people fulfill their destiny, as we call it, right? So and if we have the right tools, it's amazing. My wife and I, we're now becoming certified coaches. And my wife is doing this in the coaching sessions now with several people. And it's just a very different approach. And I mean, we were doing this for 35 years, not as official coaches, but in other platforms. And I think it's probably one of the most useful tools. And this was what Melody Hilton, she was saying. She says, look, I have all the other tools. They're great in their own way. But she says, this has become like the cornerstone of everything that I'm using. So I want to encourage you. I think you're in good hands with Mark. I think we created a program that could be really cool, wonderful experience, and we'd love to hear, because you really are guinea pigs here. And we'd be honored to have you in the class, truly.
I'm glad you said that about the guinea pigs, because it is, again, you've been running this program yourself for a long time, but to doing it in partnership, I'm looking at this being a pilot program and having others following it, myself, as well as being able to bring in other coaches who want to be able to offer the course perhaps as well. So it really is a pilot program, and I think that it's going to be really, really beneficial for everyone for their own lives, as well as if you want to take it further and get certified or whatever the next steps might be. But just getting this introduction level, I think, is really, really useful. And again, appreciate you partnering with me on it.
No, I'm very glad to do this, and you have your own amazing people that 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 are with you because of a reason. So let's work together on this. That's our desire. Now, I remember this. Our purpose is not sell the course. Our purpose is really that you get something that will impact your lives as it did ours. That's our heart. And you'll see that when you start listening to Melody Hilton, when you start listening to anything we do, you continue to be reminded of it's not about getting and taking, it's about contributing and operating in that contribution that we're supposed to be. And that has created an enormous joy in our lives. So it was an honor for me to be here, Mark. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for getting to know you, Rose in England and others. It was wonderful. And everybody that will see it too. We're here to serve. If there's any other way that we can help you, just let us know.
Yes, and in fact, you said thank you to Rose. We found out she's actually in Austria, and I'll be talking to her here in just a moment. But anybody else who wants to reach out, I just pasted my email address, mark@markporteous, in the chat box. Feel free to reach out to me directly. If you're wanting to know, again, more about how you can apply this in your business or your life, what you just said about Melody Hilton, I think that is the key takeaway is understanding, again, when we're in the wrong energy, when we're not feeling good, that it's about shifting from being, all about me to contribution. That if you learn nothing else today, that when you're in a situation that you're not feeling good about, how can you be of service? If you can just switch to, instead of, oh my God, how can I get out of this pain that I'm in? Saying, how can I be of service? That will bring you innately into kind of switching into the right energy, and knowing more of this can help that. But that's really the bottom line. That's
true. Very good.
Namaste, my friend. I really appreciate it.
Mark, thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. And I hope to see you in the class when we're going to do this one, this live session where once you're in there, you'll see that this is like, wow, a roller coaster. And, those sessions are the highlights of every course that we have. So looking forward to see you again. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.